Hi, I'm Miss Mare.
And I'm Miss Andrea.
This is Influencers in American History, which is a CheesePress Publishing publication done in collaboration with Hazelwood Prep.
Yes, exactly.
There we go. All right, this is your introduction to the course. We're going to lay out the expectations for how you would complete it. We're going to talk through some of the stuff you can expect to learn and some of the reasons why we might be teaching some of what we're teaching in this course.
Yes, absolutely.
So expectations.
What do you mean? So we started teaching American history because in the homeschool world, we noticed that homeschoolers were having a little trouble getting into college for a lack of history. And American history was often missing from portfolios, or the college admissions people weren't buying that you'd actually done a full course of American history. So we had this idea that we would teach American history and all history actually as a story to be told. So we're not really drilling in on dates and people's names per se, but we're drilling in on the story of America, how it started and how we got here. Now, this course is called Influencers in American History. So each chapter, there's a small handful of people who you do need to be aware of.
Right. An influencer isn't necessarily somebody that has a heroic, positive effect on the history.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's just the person who their presence, their actions, whatever it is that they did, suddenly shifted what was happening. And you're going to actually encounter that very quickly in the first lesson.
And so the expectations for this course is that you consume this information, whether you have our book set and you read it or you watch our videos. But at the end of that, there's room for you to dig deeper, especially in the influencers area. So we'd love to see you choose something or someone each chapter and dig deep and write a paper, because our history courses integrate language arts.
Right. So, as you said, that is an expectation. You are expected to go beyond the material that we give you. Another, because as you pointed out, this is a language arts integration, there are going to be novels to be read alongside of the historical content that you're getting from us. So you are expected to read some of those historically based novels that fit into the time period. You're going to find that, hopefully, to be a logically easy thing to do, because we have paired the novels with the point in history in which it makes sense.
Right, exactly.
So you will need to do your novel reading, you need to write an essay each week, and then you need to dive further in for at least 2 of those essays and make it more of a research paper. In our classroom, when we teach this in person, we expect students to provide a presentation to the class. If you have the opportunity wherever you are and however you're consuming this material to present your findings to somebody else, that will also go a long way toward helping your educational journey.
Voila, yes.
Another key part to the way that we teach is classroom discussion.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be talking about what you're learning, what you're reading, what you're seeing with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of reasons for this. Having another person with a different perspective is going to help you learn things that you would not otherwise learn, but also you formulating your thoughts to share with somebody else helps you understand what you're thinking better. Because just when it's rattling around in your brain, that's not necessarily enough to crystallize your final thoughts on things. And you'll find that as you have discussions with other people. So if you're not doing this in a classroom setting, talk to your parents, talk to a mentor, talk to maybe you have an older sibling that has already done this information. Have conversations about what it is that you're learning.
Yeah. This could be a weekly meal conversation about history.
Yep, so you will have 1 lesson per week.
Or it could be 10 of your best friends.
Treat it like a book club. Bring together a group of people who are all going through the material at the same time.
Yeah.
If you are doing this over the course of a school year, then there is 1 lesson per week,
Right.
and that will more or less take you through a standard school year. Obviously, you are welcome to self-pace it faster, and you can do a couple lessons a week and get it done in a semester. So when we are teaching American history in our program, we are also teaching at the same time modern world history.
We generally are. And so as you learn American history, if you're just doing American history solo, you need to be cognizant on the effects that what we're doing and what we have been doing here are simultaneously having on other areas of the world. And honestly, if you really want to get 2 history credits in 1 year, I would paste them side by side.
So if you have the opportunity to pace our American history with our modern world history at the same time, then you're going to see parallels of one event from the American perspective and then that same event from the world perspective, which becomes important when we start getting to things like, say, world wars.
Yeah, so if you want to do 2 years of history at once,
try tracking those together.
Yes, absolutely.
Because that will give you a broader view of what's happening. Mm-hmm. And we do that because pretty much all of American history, it falls in the
modern time
period. So it's very easy to track those events alongside of each other. Mm-hmm. So we have a handful of goals.
Not on that page.
No, there's 4. I was just making sure there wasn't one more on the other side. I knew there wasn't a lot on the other side.
Understood.
All right, so there are a handful of goals for this course. There are 4 of them. Mm-hmm. We want you to understand civilizational development. We want you to cultivate a global perspective, and that's why we're going to encourage you to pace your American history class alongside modern world history. We want to appreciate hemispheric diversity, and then learning through comparative history. All right, so let's jump back to the first one, understanding civilizational development.
Mm-hmm. Often in schools, you're just taught the wars and a few important people, and history just fails to be interesting. It's disjointed, and it's just hard to remember. We jump from Washington to Lincoln to Kennedy, and we think that's American history, and it is not.
Well, you lose the connecting threads between all of it because you don't get
exactly
from Washington to Lincoln without a whole lot of stuff happening in between.
Right. And so by telling it more as a series of connected events versus the most important people, we get a fuller picture of history.
Right. Which may sound a little weird because this is an influencers class. So while we generally don't buy into the great man theory of history, mm-hmm. we are going to focus on some specific people, but we're going to focus on those specific people and their relevance to that particular time period that we teach.
Exactly, yes.
All right, so we're going to cultivate a global perspective. So this comes more with that pacing with world history. We do talk about in the American history how what's happening in the United States influenced by and influences our neighbors and allies and I guess enemies in some cases.
Oh, absolutely. How we've empowered enemies or
how we've made people into enemies that maybe didn't have to be.
Yeah, times.
Fun. Very first thing we're going to look at when we get to lesson 1 here in just a second mm-hmm. is all of the people who were on the American continent before Europeans got here. So, global perspective.
Yeah.
Hemispheric diversity. Speaking of all of the people who were here before Europeans.
I teach American history and I most recently taught it to a high school senior. Taught it through the lens of these are the things that happened and let's compare it to what's going on right now. And how well we've tracked what our intentions were for this country and where our intentions were not for this country. There's several approaches you can take to this. As one of them. Another one is aware of what's happened in history so that we don't repeat mistakes of the past. Things of that. So if you're teaching this to a group, you can decide your age range and how you want to theme.
Right.
Lesson and what you want to lean into.
Right. But at the end of the day, you're often getting a singular view of what American history should look like. If most standard American history courses are giving you exactly one story, and that's like through line. Mm-hmm. And the United States has never been a single story.
Never.
There have always been competing interests and philosophies and some tension to the way that the country was founded and the way it's been managed from the very beginning.
Absolutely.
All right, and then learning through comparative history.
That's what I was just reading.
Yeah, which is getting into that learning mm-hmm. from our mistakes and mm-hmm. the ways that we can potentially teach this. That's okay. But it's good to compare how different societies have handled maybe some of the same challenges that we're facing today.
Right.
Because a lot of times we've already done this.
Yes, it seems very familiar often.
All right, so anything else for the introduction to the course?
No, buckle your seatbelt. It could be a bumpy ride, but it could be a fascinating ride. And understand the way we approach history to tell the whole story from as many perspectives as possible. So while there are things that you're going to naturally know, as an American going through American history, there are going to be some surprises along the way.
Probably.
Oh, most certainly.